Moonies are people who believe that we did not go to the moon. Okay, and I'm on record. I'm going to say that I'm going to confess here, right? That after looking at a couple of these videos, they put the seed of doubt in me, or at least made it very interesting to look it up. Doesn't mean I stopped believing that we went to the moon. I just concluded that I cannot answer all the questions that people have brought up. Okay, so I'm on record for that. I can't say that I understand all these issues. Okay, how some of these things were done. Like, you see the guy on the moon jumping around, and I showed that the other day. Uh, and you slow it down, and that's a normal hop, like that you could do here on Earth with wires, so the guy jumps. In fact, in that case, you didn't even need wires. I think you could do that and just slow down the movie, which is what I did. I just slowed it down 50 by 50%, and suddenly you're on the moon. You're jumping very slowly. So that you didn't even need wires for that. And so you say, well, could have that been done in a studio? And my answer is yes, without any doubts about it. I have no reservations about that. It could have been done in a studio. Now, was that one done in a studio, or did this guy jump on the moon? Because after all, think about it. If he's going to be on the moon, he's going to jump around. That's also what it's going to look like. So if they show you the real thing and the fake one, how are you supposed to tell the difference? Okay, keep that in mind as well. But what's my argument? My argument is that in fact, let me show you that down here, because a guy raised that issue. Okay, and he said the following. He said, here the topic of discussion is whether the Apollo missions are fake or whether man has ever set foot on the moon. Okay, what does the satellite or the probe or the rover, meaning the ISS, right? I guess he was referring to that, have to do with it? Did Armstrong set foot on the moon or not? Okay, so because I brought the issue of the ISS, and so this is what I've got to answer him. Okay, here it is. Okay, it's the levels of incredulity that we find out there among Moonies. Okay, this is a big problem because you have Moonies who say that we didn't go to the moon. Others say that humans can't even pass the Van Allen belts. Others say probes never went to the moon or to any of the planets like Mercury or Venus or Mars. And others say that they never even went into outer space. They didn't even reach what is known as the low Earth orbit. Some believe we never even went to low Earth orbit. Okay, and some don't even believe that there are satellites out there. And I know a lot of flat earthers are on that wave because they, of course, if you can show that you have satellites, you could conceivably take a picture from the satellite of the Earth and show that it's a sphere. And so they have to deny that there are even satellites out there. And others believe the ISS is fake. And why do I pick on the ISS? Well, because the ISS is something anyone can verify with a pair of binoculars or with a telescope. That's why I chose the ISS. I mean, forget about all these other people going to the moon in 1969. If these people don't believe the ISS is out there right now when they can focus with their binoculars, you're never going to convince them about man going to the moon. So we have to forget about man to the moon. We've got a bigger fire here raging, and that's that these people don't believe in the ISS. And then there's others who believe that the ISS is out there, but there are no humans in the ISS. They say that's the part that's fake, all the zero gravity stuff. Okay, and so that's why I say if we can't settle the ISS, which can be verified by telescope binoculars today, it is a waste of warp space-time to discuss the moon landings. Okay, so that's my take on this. Okay, so what do some of these people say? Okay, here's one fellow. He says about gravity in low Earth orbit. He says, few things you did not consider. Okay, gravity is at 250 miles above the Earth is only 5% less, so it's far from close to zero gravity. And he's right. Surface of the Earth, you get 9.8 meters per second square. If you go to low Earth orbit, approximately 250 miles or 400 kilometers thereabouts, you get 9 meters per second square acceleration. So not much difference, from 9 to 9.8, you don't have much difference. What's the catch? What's the difference? Well, it's more or less what you see in those airplanes that have zero gravity for about 20 seconds because they go on a parabola, okay? And here you see it. The pull of gravity is in low Earth orbit is only slightly less than on the Earth's surface. True. This is because the distance to the LEO, right, from the Earth's surface is much less than the Earth's radius. Okay. However, an object in orbit is, by definition, in free fall. Remember Einstein and his elevator falling? The man would not know if he's going up or down or whatever, since there is no force holding it up. That's the situation up there. Okay. As a result, objects in orbit, including people, experience a sense of weightlessness. There you have the link. Okay, so the fact that the gravity is not that much different at 250 miles from the surface of the Earth does not negate that they're going to be floating around. They're floating around for a different reason. Okay, and there you have it. Okay, another fellow says, okay, like some of these notions that these people raised. Fellow says the speed of the ISS travel is 17 kilometers or 17,000 miles per hour. Okay, way too fast for an amateur video you showed. And at 250 miles above the Earth, it is obstructed by over 700 miles of Earth curvature to have direct line of sight to the sun. Well, at least the guy's not a flat earther. Okay, so how is it illuminated? Most likely the video is from some high altitude balloon. And again, let's show the video, okay? I don't know what these people have in their heads. Here it is. The guy is filming through his telescope. Okay, you might, well, this was done in a studio, right? There's the guy. He's filming himself from behind, how he's filming the ISS. He takes a picture of it. You don't have to believe him. You can get your own set of binoculars and prove to yourself, convince yourself that there is a monster out there orbiting the Earth. Okay. Now, if you're like Galileo, or the cardinals of Galileo who refused to look through his telescope at the Galilean moons, Io and so on. If you refuse to look, well, I can't help you. This guy is filming, the ISS from the ground. I think he's here in Germany. And he's filming it. So, you don't have to believe him, but go get your binoculars if you're going to say that he faked it, that he did it in a studio, he did it with a hot air balloon or whatever. I mean, come on. How far are these people going to take this? That's the question. And these are the people who destroy really the conversation because they're so extreme in their thoughts that you can't even have a conversation with them. Again, it's known as a fact. It's a fact. And some people don't believe those facts. There you have it. Some people don't believe the ISS. You show them the ISS through the telescope, through your binoculars. You take them to the ISS and they still don't believe. I don't believe that fact. It's not a fact. No, you took me to Disneyland. Yeah, okay. Okay, the trick is done by performing a parabolic flight path. The craft falls with the people and things inside falling too. So he thinks that this, I guess, here's an example, right? Sorry. Give me a second here. I'll show you some zero gravity here. Okay, here it is. Muller. And you can see he's flying around. And why? Because he went on this airplane in France that takes people for a ride, tourist ride. It's zero gravity for 20 seconds approximately, and then they all fall down. Okay, so this is what it is. It's not a trick. This is not done in a studio. This is the real thing, folks. And should we say that this was done in a studio too? That they took the trouble? I mean, everything's fake today, right? So that probably was done in a studio. And yeah, this is what people believe, that, the ISS, the things that they do in there going from one chamber to another, that's all done in a studio with wires. They took all this trouble to do that. I mean, I think it's much easier, way easier to do it on the ISS than it would be in Hollywood. Okay, so someone says the following. He criticizes the water drop. Here it goes. Says there are plenty of examples of the kinds of motion and activity such as drinking a glob of water or realistic floating objects that you have claimed couldn't be faked in a studio found in movies and TV shows. Okay, he said proof. Drinking a floating water globule in a similar manner can be seen on the TV show The Expanse. And he says look up The Expanse, zero gravity time killing. So I did look it up, and this is what you see in that movie, the specific strip of film where the guy drinks a drop of water that's floating in air, okay? And here he is, okay? He throws that, I guess his pop bottle, pop can, turns around, okay? I did it in fast motion there. And here he swallows the drops of water as they come into his mouth. But you can see the drops of water are really going straight, okay? And so people confuse things and they say, okay, that can be done in a studio. This can be done in a studio, the guy rolling around with a belt tied to a wire. But this, you can see the drops of water just floating by straight. He doesn't play around with them. Compare that now with this, the ISS, astronaut, the lady who swallowed the water. Compare this against this now. This is a lot different. I'm not sure Hollywood could do this. Okay, not in a studio. Not that neat, not that clear. Okay, and you can see that she's fumbling with that water drop like anything. You're saying, how did she do that in a studio? That's the one I want you to show me. This other fellow, he's just got drops of water floating past him. Here you see it again. Let me show you one more time. Okay, he's just got the water drops just floating around. That can be done in a studio, no problem with that. But this is something different. This is what did they do? They held that water droplet with a string. Is that how they did it? And so again, people are going to extremes to try to argue their case against the ISS. I mean, I think it would be much easier for them to do it in the ISS than what you see than to do it in Hollywood. That's my 5 cents worth on that. What can I tell you? These people, I think, are going out of their way. We do have an ISS. In order to take it up there, there had to be some intermediate steps. There had to be many rockets sent with all these probes out there before we could build an ISS out there in space. And if we built that thing up there, so we just have that, like this other fellow said, tin can or tuna can orbiting the Earth. What can I tell you? It's empty. There's nothing in there. They just put this tin can up there and everybody just watches it just to fool the entire Earth. My God, these people are really taking it very far. And they're really flat earthers. That's what they are. Okay, another fellow says, look up NASA engineer Kelly Smith videos on YouTube who admits we can't get through the deadly Van Allen belts today. Well, I did look that fellow up. I didn't find he had a couple videos. I watched a couple of them and then I finished. I didn't look for more. First of all, he didn't come across as a very reliable fellow for me. He was there primarily to boast that he got a job at NASA and eat your heart out, that sort of thing. He's just putting a show where he's collecting money to say, hey, I got a job at NASA and you don't. That's all it was. And then he talked about a lot of his, how he got his master's degree and so on. Quite boring, the whole thing. I couldn't find the specific piece where he says about the Van Allen belt. So I would need a link to that video to find out what he's talking about. But again, he didn't come across as very reliable. And, a lot of the stuff he said was just, he's a newbie. He doesn't know anything. He's supposedly an engineer, but he's just starting out. So yeah, I was by no means convinced by that fellow.